Welcome back into the Enrichment Sports Source. This segment of our show brought to you by our good friends at Tennova Healthcare. They have locations all over East Tennessee. Physicians Regional Medical Center right downtown in Knoxville, Turkey Creek Medical Center in West Knoxville, North Knoxville Medical Center right up there in the Powell area between Powell and Halls, Jefferson Memorial Hospital, La Follette Medical Center, Newport Medical Center. Wherever you are, trust Tennova Healthcare with your diagnostic and treatment needs. I have in the past. They took good care of me. They will you too. Tennova Healthcare. You can learn more about them by going to tennova.com. All right, back with Don, Mike, Mark, and Jimmy. When Cuonzo Martin was hired, the week he was hired, said on this show, he's walking into an impossible situation because Bruce Pearl has become Robin Hood because the NCAA is the reason he left. And we all sat here and agreed that 3 years from now, people are going to be saying, bring back Bruce. That has come to pass. You could have written it down. Personally, I don't think anything short of a Final Four would have changed that for Cuonzo Martin. But he hasn't reached a Final Four. Yesterday, they went into that game. Their RPI had jumped to 36. I looked this morning, it's dropped back down to 55 or 56, so that was a huge loss for Tennessee. Where is Cuonzo Martin's job status? And Jimmy, you do a call-in show. You talk to the fans out there. Granted, that's a percentage. But what's his job status in the fans' view, and what do you think his job status is with Dave Hart?
After Tennessee beat LSU on the road in a really good win for Tennessee, we had a caller asking if Bruce Pearl could be rehired. And I thought, are you kidding me? After one of the biggest wins that he's had, but that's the mindset of some people. I'll say this, I would not want to be in Cuonzo Martin's shoes if I don't make the NCAA tournament. That'd be 3 years in a row. Bruce made it every year. And if you can't make it with this talent on this team, then you got to wonder when you are, because you're going to be losing some seniors on this team that are pretty good. You may lose Stokes, although I'm not sure he's ready to go. Yeah. But I think your roster now is about as good as it's going to get. And if you can't get there with this team, then I would have concerns about his future.
Yeah, not only talent, but also a veteran team, an experienced team that's going to be very young next year. Mark, your thoughts then? You worked over there.
Yeah. Well, and the other part about what you're losing is if Hub's injury, how that impacts his growth going into next year, because he's supposed to be that scorer for us into next year.
Yeah, and you also don't get, because he's played so much, you don't get to stick him with a medical red shirt. So you just basically blown a year, and you don't get the experience.
Yeah, well, and I think there is, regardless of who was here, regardless of if he did make it to the Final Four, the next year he made it to the Sweet 16, you'd still have that component of our fan base, the Bruce lovers that are saying, hey, we need to get Bruce back. It was just, it is what it is. The frustrating side of it was, like Jimmy mentioned, there wasn't the excitement that I felt from us having that LSU win. It was more of like, people were almost thinking, gosh, maybe we are going to turn the corner, we're going to be really good, as opposed to getting behind Coach and getting behind this team as a purely a Vol fan. So there is, whatever Coach can do, I think at the end of the year, I think his job will still be, it's his to have. We'll see what happens going forward. But regardless, there's always going to be that segment of, until Coach takes another job, there's always going to be the Bruce Pearl chanting.
Guys, and I'll ask both of you this, you've covered a number of these situations, certainly at Tennessee. Don, you've been on the other side of it where you're up against the wall. Where is Cuonzo Martin at this point with his job situation? I mean, let's face it, he wasn't hired by Dave Hart, and I still think Dave Hart is a basketball guy, played basketball at Alabama. I think if there's a sport he feels like he knows how to make a hire, it would probably be basketball. So where do you think Cuonzo Martin's job status is? Don, do you think it's even fair that we're discussing it on this show today?
No, I don't think it's fair at all. There's as I look at the schedule, there's 16 SEC games to be played, not to mention the Southeastern Conference Tournament, which is played in Nashville. I think this Tennessee team can win every game that is on its schedule. Now obviously they have to play at a high level, and they're not going to win all the games. Let's be realistic. But this team is capable, when the ball's thrown up at the beginning, of really giving a great effort and really playing outstanding basketball. The bench is deep enough with enough size and enough athleticism. Their stats have proven that they can really have some great nights. You know, and there are a lot of games, in my opinion, to be won in the Southeastern Conference on the road. There are some really, really weak Southeastern Conference basketball teams this year out there, and some of the scores have really kind of surprised me. So I think there are plenty of games, and to be talking about Bruce Pearl, to me, is really unfair for this basketball coach who came in here, you know, in really very, very difficult circumstances. Bruce Pearl had his opportunity to be the coach here, and the last bastion of the University of Tennessee is integrity. You know, and this fellow showed no integrity by the way he ended his career here. And for people to be talking about Bruce Pearl coming back is so unfair to this basketball staff and everybody who works at the University of Tennessee. We shouldn't even be talking about it, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, in terms of this show, as a producer and as a host, I think I can't ignore what's on out there. But I certainly, there's a reason I asked you if you thought it was fair, because I wonder, is it fair? At the same time, we're not going to sit here and bury our head in the sand and say, oh, it'll be fine.
Bruce Pearl said it wasn't fair.
Well,
I mean, just to talk about him replacing Cuonzo,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: if we sat here on this show and didn't talk about the job situation with them 9-5 and everyone expecting big things this year, we would be not doing our duty as a talk show. I don't think, in terms of covering something legitimate.
Every coach in the Southeastern Conference, you know, in basketball, has to do one thing: they've got to win a lot of games, and they've got to win a lot of important games. And sooner or later, you know, their tenure, you know, is going to be, you know, stymied. And, you know, let's just say that, you know, everybody knows that, you know, you have to win, and you have to win big at the University of Tennessee in particular, because there were 18,000 fans last night, and the students are out, and the team didn't win a game that was really a very winnable basketball game. And that's what really is so upsetting, you know, is that, you know, there are a lot of opportunities, and you got to grasp those opportunities. And last night, Texas A&M was just a little more prepared going down the stretch.
You made up so much ground with that win at LSU. We talked about it last week, that this is one of those teams, if you can get back into the tournament bubble, this is one of those teams you're going to be jostling for position for. You get that win, and then you almost just cancel it out with the home loss to a team that had an RPI of 144.
Yeah.
You now have 2 losses to teams outside the top 100 RPI when you throw in UTEP. Hopefully Tennessee doesn't play anybody else from the Lone Star State. Mike Strange, I'll let you finish up on this thing. What is Cuonzo Martin's job status, or do you not think it's fair to discuss?
I think it's a little overboard, really, after one game out of 31.
Well, actually, it's after 14 games.
Well, but
in 2.5 years.
I think it's a little bit. I don't get that big of a reaction over one game. I think on the space of the week, if you take the week as a whole, I'd rather have a road win at LSU and a home loss than the other way around. So you still have won a road game. So it's one out of. There's still 16 games to go. This means they've got to get this back somewhere. But it's still 16 games to go.
All right. Is it going to come up on your show this week?
Oh yeah, it comes up every week. It came up after they beat LSU.
Right. I heard Josh and Will this week, and I heard John. I turned it in just in time for Josh to be talking to somebody about this. He said, "You just beat LSU, and the first 2 calls are, can we make a coaching change?" I mean, one of our topics, and Mark, I told you this going into yesterday before the loss when we wound it up. It was what percentage of the fans actually want Cuonzo Martin to succeed, which is. That to me is unfair. The fact that I don't care who it was that was walking in. Whoever walked in was going to get an unfair shake, I think. But that said, can't question the fact that Vol fans are showing up. Great crowd over there. All right, when we come back, we'll have the basketball guys back a little later to talk about Auburn, to talk about Kentucky. When we come back, Chuck Cavaleris, Bob Hodge join us. We talk Bobby Petrino, James Franklin, Lane Kiffin. Come on back on the Enrichment Sports Source.
Miss an episode of the Enrichment Sports Source? Catch up online at sportsource.tv.